And now we have a competition winner and Urban Plus founder Sibarani Sofian to discuss the concept behind the city. Good evening, Mr. Sibarani. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon or this evening. So you and your team won the new capital city design competition against 755 other participants with the Nagara Rimba Nusa concept. Now, could you share a little bit about the philosophy behind it?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Sibarani and glad to be here. And yeah, the Nagara Nusa concept is very much a concept that bring us closer to nature because I believe that today's we are not as engaged and as respectful to our nature. And Nagara stands for the city. Rimba stands for forest, which is something very particular for Borneo. You know, Borneo is the lung of the world, yeah. And Nusa is the fact that our identity as a archipelago means that we are a nation of islands. So the Nagara Rimba Nusa philosophy based upon the creation of a city that is situated in the forest, but then which is dear to us as an Indonesian archipelagic people.
All right, so we're very
Yeah.
curious. You won this competition among others as well. And
Yeah.
what do you think win the heart of President Joko Widodo with your design? How long was the research that you did also, and finally come up with this idea? We know that it's in Kalimantan, and you talk about that we need to respect the nature, we need to listen to what they want and what we can give them, and in return, what the nature can give to us. So could you tell us about this idea?
Yeah. Yeah, we follow this competition brief, yeah, since the very beginning, and somewhere in the middle, Mr. Joko Widodo, the president, gave a speech, and he kind of like gave his idea and his expectation that this has to be a unique Indonesian city that can be a gift to the world. So it's not the other way around. We should find something that is, embedded and inherited from us that we can show to the world. A lot of the competition enter may probably use, foreign concept because capital city design tend to be coming from outside, yeah, because we never have a design for our own capital city. So some probably borrow some idea from, for example, the Western idea, then try to bring it to this competition. So I probably do the other way around. So we try to find our own local wisdom, and then we have to really enhance it, bring it to the international standard, bring to the city making of the 21st century, and present that to Mr. President. I mean, honestly, it's not really the president, but then 13 juries that become the juror for this.
Yeah.
Mr. President is actually one of the person that we have to meet, but not necessarily the decision makers, because it is actually a very formal competition where 13 juries making all the marks for
Right.
the winner.
You know, what you said, Sibarani, about that we never happen to design our own capital is like a slap in the face because, it's a Dutch colonial era and we inherit that kind of design. And now we
Correct.
actually have the time to design our own capital. But talking about the wisdom itself, you mentioned about wisdom of Indonesia, but how do you translate the phrase wisdom of Indonesia into your design?
Yeah, like for example, there are many ways and in many levels. Yeah, like for example, if you go through Indonesian cities, there has always been a consistent sort of like notion that we have some sort of like, for example, in Bali, you are oriented yourself to the north, especially to the Mount Agung. But then you have also in Bandung or in West Java or in Yogyakarta, we have the Queen of the South. Yeah. And we refer to this ocean as something that we cannot breach and we have to step back from it. That's part of our nature, that's part of our wisdom to the nature where we respect something that we cannot control, like the mountain, the eruption, and also the ocean that has tsunami. And that's the wisdom because humans should live just somewhere where all the natural disasters shouldn't be there, right? So, and that is actually being part of the the cosmology of Indonesian cities where we have an axis of man with the nature and man with God. It inherited in many places in cities of Indonesia. That's one of it that we show in our capital city concept, where we have an axis that relates to the hill behind us and also to the ocean in front of us. That's one of the wisdom. Yeah,
Right.
but not all. I mean, there are many of them. Like for example, we use some of our construction of our building using the piloti. Yeah, the terminology is piloti, or actually an elevated deck, where we in our Indonesian system, which also inherited inherit in somewhere in Southeast Asia too, rumah gadang. Yeah,
Right.
we elevate,
Right. West
we
Sumatra.
lift up the yeah, West Sumatra, but you can see also in Malaysia too, Southeast Asia.
There are
So it's actually
similarities.
something similar, because we tend to share our living with the nature, so we don't really change the structure of the nature. So we just merely stepping on it a little bit with kind of like tiptoeing, right? So we don't want to destroy everything. But now with the new technology and the new sort of like city making, everything is kind of like heavy burden into the environment, and we change that relationship with the nature. So I think we should go back to our wisdom.
That's
yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So Nusantara Capital City will be constructed on a 256,000 hectare area, and most of it are forest land. So how has this inspired your design? Can you elaborate more?
Yeah. So when we first hear the word of Borneo and its jungle, etc., we already start thinking about, wow, this is like Wakanda, right? Something like, wow, everything is so forested, etc. But the truth is, not all the 256,000 area of the planning is a forest. In fact, majority of it is already, I would say, disrupted in terms of the nature point of view, because we actually use those area for production forests, mostly paper pulp forests, acacia and also eucalyptus. So majority of this area is already been ecologically disturbed. Yeah. So our competition try to turn this perception, because this is one of our recipe also to avoid being sort of like people will start to frame us that, oh, Indonesia will start to destroy their own native forests to create a city. If that's the kind of framing of the argument, then you lose the war, I think, because what we want to do is we want to renew our relationship with the forest, because we have not really been kind to the forest, because we already taken some of that forest for our production, for our economic activity. So what we really need is, when we come in with our own city, we need to stitch it back, and we need to renew our relationship with the nature first before we come into the city building. That's why one of our phrase is build the forest first before we build the cities. So this has to be a coordinated effort between many ministries in Indonesia, where one of the minister that has to really put their forefront effort in here is the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Ibu Siti Nurbaya, for example,
Right.
yeah, because that's a lot of area to cover, and that's really inspire us to create the city of Nagara Rimba Nusa.
Right. So, Sibarani, based what I researched and read about you, you're not new in the architectural field, especially in Asia. So, you've had experiences in various urban projects in Asia, executing sustainable urban development based on integrated multidisciplinary approach. But the question is, how did you implement sustainable urban development in this project, especially when it comes to transportation integration? And what makes it different than other projects that you have done previously?
Yeah, thank you very much for having my background stated. It's true that half of my career, of my 20 years career, spent in Asia, outside of Indonesia, because I work in Hong Kong and I work in Singapore, and I was a director of a company that also have a project in Southeast Asia, like in Philippines, in Vietnam, etc. So having an international standard and international level of expectation is something that I'm pretty comfortable with, and I know how to achieve that. And the keyword of integration is definitely vital because cities is different, yeah, with architecture. And I'm not calling myself an architect. I'm an architect of a city. So we call, there's a term for that called urban design. And in urban design, we, there are so many elements that you need to bring together to the table. Like you cannot just think about building, you need to think about transportation, you need to think about economics, you think about environment, all of those, not only those, they all happen in the same place, in the city. And the city is a contested place for many people, right? And they try to make a living, they try to make money. An animal also try to make a place to stay, and infrastructure need to be there to create something. So integration is the most complex things that needs to be brought together. And honestly speaking, um, we as a country and also as a cities, government and provincial level or the city level, integration is something that is rare. It's not really
Wow.
easy
Yeah.
because we don't really think in integrated way because we are educated not in an integrated way. We are also the ministry is also set not in the integrated way because everybody has their own what we call function and also roles, yeah.
Yeah.
And you tend to create this kind of silos approach to a lot of things. So that tradition brought us into a place where we only try to think about, you know, limiting ourselves. Oh, I'm only dealing
Yeah.
with water. I'm dealing with electricity. So that's why stitching it together is a long-term play that you need to pay attention, and that's why I think the beauty of the city is not really in the design of it, but in also executing it and implementing it into a long-term projects. Yeah, and we need to have, you know, the right people to orchestrate this.
Yeah, we
You
kind of
know,
like lack it more and more, getting the understanding more from your perspective of this new capital. And this is, this is quite complicated because it's a big terrain and it's got wetlands as well. It's
Yep.
got mangrove and all that. So you need to know
Mangrove,
where
yeah.
to build and where
Correct.
not to build and all that. So a lot of people say,
Yeah.
let's celebrate the Independence Day in 2024 in East Kalimantan. Do you think we can have it all constructed by 2024? Or how long will it take, you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. So it's like describing an elephant, yeah. So it really depends whether you touch the tusk or you touch the you know the legs or the tail, right? But as a whole, the city will take more than couple years. We really need a decade probably to build a city, and not only the physical terms. We need to build a civilization, right? We need
That's
to
true.
build people too. So physically speaking, the site is very undulating. It's very hilly. Yeah, it's a lot of constraint. But the decision to be there is already been made, right? So we choose East Kalimantan and especially this area because of various things, and one of them is the ownership of the land that the government has a lot of stake in it. But the difficulty is the undulation and also the lack of water resources because this area has a dry and the soil condition that is not allowing us. We also cannot extract the water from the ground anymore. So we really need to solve those. And I think the Ministry of Public Works has done relatively well to do that. But having said that, I think the whole complete city of, especially if it's talking about 250,000 hectares, I think honestly speaking, it's going to take more than 10 years, yeah.
10
But
years.
yeah, but when we talk about only the particular core area where we have the capital, the palace,
palace.
state palace, We also have the alun-alun, yeah, for our Independence Day parade, and also the Ministry of Building. If it's only few buildings, yes, we may be able to pull it together for 2024. But to expect, like for example, the projection is to have 250,000 people for our sort of like significant bulk of people. So at least it creates a certain level of presence of the city. That will take more than 5 years for sure.
Right.
In my opinion, yeah. But of course, a lot of people may want to speed it up, want to
Yeah.
make it happen quicker. But I would choose to be more precautious and prefer quality over time. Yeah. So we don't need to rush it because we have only one time, once in a lifetime chance to
Definitely.
develop the city, and we want to do it right, and being more cautious, being more prudent, and also really beyond also political time, because I think there's a certain pressure that we have to deliver it within certain political period, which I think we shouldn't be we shouldn't uh, force ourselves that way, because there's a lot of things that we need to cover here.
Okay.
Right. All right. Well, you're the guy, you're the conceptor and designer, and we are all looking forward for the new capital in East Kalimantan. Thank you so much once again, Sibarani Sofian, for being with us in the 3 Hour News Show.